birthplace. I would always say I was born in Colton, California.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in the 8th grade, the Border Patrol, La Migrant, caught up to us, and we were deported back to Mexico.
Right. That must have been just a really sad day. Huh?
It was a terrible day because when I was in the 8th grade, we had settled permanently in Santa Maria.
Mm-hmm.
My father couldn't continue working in the fields because he had terrible back problems.
Right.
So that forced my older brother Roberto and myself to get janitorial jobs before school, after school, and weekends. And between both of us, we were able to support the family.
Yeah.
And so, so we were very pleased that we were able to get jobs that were year-round, and we didn't have to move anymore.
Right.
And this was when I was in 8th grade, and then at that point we got caught and deported. So when things were just getting
going
right, then
yeah,
things fell apart.
It always happens that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like here in Silicon Valley. Things were going great in 2000, and then just things fell out.
Exactly, and in a sense, that's why I think education is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I talk a lot about that in the book,
mm-hmm.
that education for me became the stability that I was looking for.
Right.
As I was growing up,
mm-hmm.
I wanted a place to call our own.
Yeah.
You know, I was tired of moving, missing school and so forth. And so in this very unstable life that we were living, the one thing that gave me a sense of stability was education.
Right.
That whatever I learned on my own and whatever I learned in school,
mm-hmm.
That knowledge would go with me no matter how many times we would move, you see. So that gave me a sense of stability.
Yeah.
And it applies to Silicon Valley because, you know, you can lose the most expensive things that we own. You know, if you have a house, you may lose it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a car, you know, you could lose that as well.
Yeah.
But what you will never lose is your education. That is something that is yours to have and to hold and will last you forever.
Right.
And so that's why I am a promoter of education.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And caterpillars and butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I noticed it. Is there significance to that
yes.
in the story? Was there anything more than?
Yes, the butterfly is you know a symbol in my work,
mm-hmm.
which I drew from my experiences working in the fields. I was fascinated by butterflies and how they were made. And then when I was in the 1st grade, since I couldn't understand the teacher, what I would do is to draw.
Okay.
It didn't require language, so I would draw birds and mostly butterflies.
Right.
And there was a caterpillar in the classroom in a jar
mm-hmm.
that I kind of befriended, you know, and it turns into a chrysalis.
Right.
So I wanted to be able to learn to read in order to figure out more about how butterflies develop, because
mm-hmm.
there was a book in the classroom with pictures, you know, and with the letters in the bottom of the pictures, and I thought that by looking at those letters that I could figure out what the message was. Of course, I couldn't.
Okay.
So that was an incentive for me to learn to read, and then one of my pictures of the butterfly was submitted by the teacher without my knowing into a contest, and then I got first place for my drawing,
mm-hmm.
and that the excitement on my part and also on the part of the students in the class, my classmates, helped me to feel much more a part of the class, because before that I felt very isolated.
Right.
And so I felt very similar to the chrysalis, you know, where you turn into a cocoon. I felt like when I first started the classroom, I was like a cocoon inside myself.
I see. Right.
But then with the drawing for getting the first prize for my drawing,
mm-hmm.
it was like breaking out of my own cocoon and becoming a butterfly, just like I describe in the book.
I see.
So the butterfly then becomes a symbol of, for me, as as human development to its fullest.
I see. A transformation.
Transformation. We're born with all this wonderful potential inside of us, and as we grow through the help of our parents and especially teachers, we begin to develop this potential that finally is fully developed, and we develop as fully as human beings and with all their potential, just as butterflies do in different colors.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Yeah, I thought I kind of noticed something when I was reading through that. I kind of got the sense that there was more importance, there was more significance to that.
Yes.
What I'd like to have you do is read, there's a passage here, and I want you, I'll show you, this is where you can set this up for us, starting from here, and it goes on to the next page. This is where you collected pennies.
Yes.
And your little sister.
Yes, right. Yeah, I collected pennies, and I had two pennies that were my favorite. One was the 1910 penny that my father gave me because that was the year he was born, and that was the year that the Mexican Revolution took place. And the other penny was from 1865, which was a penny that one of my best friends gave me.
The Indian head.
The Indian head, yeah. And unfortunately, my little sister got a hold of them, and then she went to the grocery store with my mom, and she bought gum with them, and so I lost my pennies.
I was so devastated when I read that. But it's a beautiful passage. Why don't you read that for us?
So it begins when my mother returns from the grocery store. When Mama returned, I helped her with the groceries. "Did you get any pennies in change?" I asked. She looked in her purse and handed me one. It was made in 1939. "Can I have it?" "Of course, mijo," she answered. I went to our classroom to add it to my collection. I took out my coin box from underneath the mattress and removed the top. The first layer of white cotton was bare. No, they're not. No, they have to be here, I thought to myself. I swiftly removed the cotton and checked the second layer. Nothing. My 1910 and my 1865 pennies were gone. I rushed out of the room shouting, "My pennies, someone took them." When I got to the kitchen, Rora, my sister, ran and hid behind Mama, who was standing by the stove preparing dinner. "Did you take my pennies?" I yelled at my sister. "If you did, give them to me." Holding on to Mama's leg with her left arm, Rora extended her right hand and offered me 2 red gumballs. "I don't want your gum, I want my 2 pennies, I shouted. She dropped the gumballs and started whimpering. "Come down, Panchito," Mama said. Then looking down at my sister, she said, "Mija, did you take Panchito's pennies?" Rora nodded sheepishly. "And what did you do with them?" Mama continued. Rora pointed to the gumballs on the floor. "Did you put the pennies in the gum machine at the store?" she asked. When my sister nodded again, my heart dropped to my stomach. I felt my face on fire, everything blurred. I stormed out of the house, slammed the door behind me, sat on the front stairs, and cried.
And there's a little bit more on the next
Seconds
page.
later, Mama came out and sat beside me. "I know how disappointed you are, mijito, but your sister is only 4 years old," she said tenderly. Then clearing her throat, she continued, "Let me tell you a story I heard when I was a little girl. Long ago, there lived a very smart ant who saved her pennies for so many years that she became rich. Many animals wanted to marry her, but they frightened her. The cat mewed too much, the parrot talked too much, and the dog barked too loud. A bull and a goat also scared her, but not a little brown mouse named El Ratoncito. He was quiet, intelligent, polite, and mannerly. They got married and lived happily for a very long time. But one day, when the ant was cooking a pot of beans, she fell in it and drowned, leaving El Ratoncito with a lot of pennies, but terribly sad and lonely. So you see, mijito, Rora is more important than the pennies. Don't be so hard on your sister." Mama's stories calmed me down a little, but I was still angry at Rora. I took a deep breath and went back inside to our room. I sat on the mattress and pulled out my notepad from my shirt pocket. I turned to the page where I listed my pennies and crossed out Lincoln Head 1910 in Indian Head, 1865.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah.